Thanks so much for tuning in to watch this video. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for new punk rock videos every week and tap the bell to get notified when new videos drop. My name is Erin Micklow, and I'm here with Mr. Dick Lucas from Subhumans. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm so excited to be here with you. You were so amazing last night. I really enjoyed the show.
Ace.
Yeah, I'm excited to see your other band too, Citizen Fish. That's coming up. You're playing tomorrow, right?
And Culture Shock tonight.
Oh, Culture. I didn't know all three of your bands were playing this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Special three-way package.
That's amazing. So I wanted to talk about that, of having your three bands. How do they differ from each other?
Well, Subhumans is, as you probably know already, more of the punk element, and Citizen Fish introduced a bit of ska into it, and we've got like trumpet and trombone backing that up. So it's sort of ska punk. Time-wise, that came after Culture Shock, and that was in the late 80s. And we were, dare I say, one of the first bands on this side of the pond to join up ska with punk, with a bit of reggae shoved in as well. It was a good development. We met up with all these bands in our area, like Organised Chaos and the A-Heads and Subhumans, all kind of split up at the same time at the end of '86. The start of '86, and we knew a mate of ours called Paul, moved up from Cornwall. He had all these bass lines in his head, and we just got together a band that for us was the first time of doing stuff that wasn't just punk rock. Yeah, it had like ska and slower beats and more space to sing in, which was like a luxury, really. Yeah. And we just mixed our old styles in with a new style. Yeah. And it went from there.
That's cool. Well, so for that, I did see in another interview you talked about how, you know, there was a time when it was like the mods didn't mix with the punks, that it was, you know, you weren't able to kind of mesh that of like, but now in today we have like so many ska punk bands.
Yeah, well, we were in the local disco in teenage years where the mods and the punks were sat on opposite sides of the room. And there's a really small town, 6 of us on each side. We didn't fight, but no way were we going to like dance to the other person's music. Yeah. On the other hand, the specials being played and two-tones being played, and it's like you couldn't help your foot moving, and it settles in your head. So like several years later, it's just like, why don't we do a bit of ska punk, because that could sound really good. Yeah, and it did. But when you're that young, you set up your own barriers for security or macho reasons or ego, whatever it is. Yeah. So for self-identifying, what you got to do when you're a teenager, you got to like work out what you can be to sort of either fit in with society, or actually with punk rock, not fit in with society, but fit in with other people the same age. Yeah. It's where you deal with things. You close yourself off, and then later on you open yourself out to it because you're more relaxed about living with other people, I guess.
Thing now though, because you know the present generations of punk, especially like in America, it's like they all kind of just melt together. Of like there's so many different subgenres of punk rock now, and they all melt together. It's like you'll see all the ska punk kids, and then you know the regular punk, and then the little crusty punks, and
which is great because there's no longer all this infighting, and barriers and tribalism going on. It used to be really stupid in the 80s. Yeah, you know, people just separate themselves off by the length of their haircut and stuff.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I can't even imagine that, because it's just, you know, how diverse it is now. And people ask now, it's like, oh, well, what kind of punk, you know, do you interview? What kind of, it's like, well, there's so many different genres now. Yeah.
Like, I mean, Rebellion is the place to see all sorts of different punk rock going on. Yeah. And reggae and all the crossover points in between. Yeah. And poetry and art and all sorts.
Yeah. That's Yeah. And speaking of art, you're a painter as well. I was looking at your Instagram and you have some really beautiful paintings.
Thank you.
How did you get into painting?
I was in Poland at the end of a tour, and there was everything was cheap over there. It was like, we're talking pre-Euro, everything was in zlotys. It's like 2,000 zlotys to £1 or something. And there were some cheap paints there. So I bought them, I thought I'd give it a go.
Yeah.
And got a bit of cardboard when I was at home and just sloshed some paint around, and then got to a point I could afford a canvas and just carried on going like that. And that was several years ago now. I just like painting.
Yeah.
It's like a hobby. And with Instagram, I thought, well, the only good thing about this version of social media is it's pictures. And I've just painted pictures. Let's put them up there and see if people like them. And then I put them on a website called Etsy, and I see if I can sell some. And sometimes I do, which is nice, bit of useful income when there's a lockdown and all that shit. But yeah, it's just a nice hobby. I just like seeing what comes out.
Yeah, I can imagine it's very therapeutic. I did a class like that when I was traveling, and there was wine and paint, and I was like, this is silly. And then by the end of it, I was like, kind of proud of the painting I just made.
Yeah. If you don't like it, you can do it all over again. Just paint over it.
Yeah. I did see too, somebody from Australia bought one of your paintings, so you do ship those worldwide.
Oh yeah, they'll ship anywhere.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It costs a bomb to get to Australia. It's like about £100 to ship a painting to Australia.
Oh my God.
It's insane.
Yeah, but people buy them because they're yours.
I hope they buy them because they'd like the painting rather than because I painted them. That would be against the grain, really.
Probably a little bit of both. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah.
Well, so obviously with Subhumans, the band that you're most known for, that one is, you're very outspoken. You have very strong political and social viewpoints. Can you talk more about that? Like, what inspired that for you? What started that? I saw something like you went to boarding school when you were younger. And
I did, yeah, where it was an all-male boarding school. So for the, whatever it was, 6 years I was there, you soon learn about the hierarchies and maleness of society, but in a sort of microcosm of it all at school. There was like, you didn't go home at weekends, you were there for like weeks and weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get a glimpse of the outside world. I thought when I got into the outside world, so to speak, and got like a proper job and stuff, it would all be more mature, but it wasn't. It was the same sort of thing. We're talking about bullying and how intelligent people are rated way below anyone who can like kick a football or pass a rugby ball in a straight line or whatever. Sport and fitness was the macho end of the male society I was in, and if you were good at that, you could deal out all the hassle you wanted to people who were younger or thinner or wore glasses or read more books and that sort of thing. I was more on the reading books end of stuff. I hated sports completely because it was just like controlled violence, basically.
yeah.
So you learn about that sort of thing. There weren't many good times there. So I came out, and the best thing about it, if you can call it a silver lining, is that nobody knew who I was when I went out on a social life back at home, having left school. And I just went to all these discos and stuff, discovered more punk rockers hanging around, became immediate friends with punk rockers just by being myself. And they had no idea of my strengths or weaknesses or what I was like at all. So with punk rock, musically, that did the same sort of thing. It was a freed up thing where a whole generation of alienated kids just felt united by music that was spitting against the grain of society. It told you could do anything you want. And that's why so many people became involved in being in punk bands, myself included. Just like, what can I do? I can't play anything. I can write. I like writing. I can write poetry. Let's call it a song and sing it and meet up with my brother and a couple of mates and formed a band. First band I was in called The Mental. We formed at school and broke up when we left. But it was more just a hobby. It was just a real freedom and essence of exploration and just getting stuff out of yourself.
Yeah.
And we were comparatively crap. Not very good, whatever, but it didn't matter. And that was the whole thing about punk rock. Anyone can do this. And not everyone, but a lot of people did.
Some of the bands that are the shittiest are some of the best ones almost. It's like, wow, this band is terrible, but they're really good to watch still.
Yeah, if a band's enjoying themselves and they mean it, you can tell. Yeah. You can forgive all the musical mistakes.
Yeah. That's the one thing about punk. I've seen some bands this weekend where it's like, they're putting on a good show, but musically, God, they're really terrible.
Yeah,
but it's still good to watch.
they're still doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. One thing I really liked that you said yesterday on stage, you were speaking about just environmental stuff of like, hi, we have these plastic water bottles, and it's like, why don't they just fix the root of the problem of fix the water source? Why do we need to buy plastic water bottles? And then the plastic water bottles, they pollute the ocean, and then it fucks the fish up, and then it's just like a chain of events. And I was watching that, and I was like, wow, that's really true and really depressing.
Yeah, the invention of priced up bottled water.
Yeah,
it's just so lazy capitalism. They'll charge you for stuff that basically comes out of the sky, which is unclean because of all the stuff we stick in the sky, or pollution. And instead of like fixing the water system so it is cleaned when it goes through it, so it comes clean water through the taps, they didn't do that. And it's just like there's just poison coming through our tap water. So hey, let's buy it in bottles. If you can't afford to buy it in bottles, and like suddenly, and then all the empty bottles go into the ocean or in landfills, and it's poison everywhere. Babies being born with like microplastic inside them. Jesus. Now it's literally everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, living in Los Angeles, we're a bit more health conscious there, just as much as we can be. It's still a fucked up place, but it's funny because when I travel to foreign countries, I have my reusable plastic water bottle, and people always comment on it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you guys don't really do that here. Why is everybody, like on the airplane too, I was sitting next to this English man, and he just kept getting bottles of water, and I was like, why don't you I'm like, you've gone through like 8 plastic water bottles. I was like, that's kind of terrible for the environment. And good for you for staying hydrated, but it's weird. It's really strange.
And it's lazy.
Yeah.
And it's convenient. Convenience is often the flip side of laziness.
Yeah. That's true. That is true. Well, so to flip the subject, poking around on your Instagram, you have a balancing rocks, like actual rocks.
Actual rocks. Yeah, real rocks.
Like actual river stones. And this is like, it's not one post. You have many, many posts of this. What is this about?
I don't know, what's it about? It's like the feeling you get when you get rocks or eggs or spoons or forks or anything balancing that just looks completely improbable or impossible. And some of it is impossible, but you don't put the posts up the ones that didn't work. The feeling when you get to that point and it's there and it stays there and continues staying there long enough to get a photo of it at least is just incredible. It's a moment of arrival of like you are, I hate to say this, with nature completely. Hippie stuff's coming up. It's like, but it's totally, you're there. You can escape the whole world for like however long it takes to get to that point. When you reach there, it's just like a lovely feeling of accomplishment. Yeah. And then you could just knock it over.
So how long does it take you to get them to balance? Like,
well, there's no set time. I mean, in fact, time kind of disappears. If you're pretty sure it's going to work in the end, you can spend like half an hour on it. There's people on Instagram that check out a bloke called calls himself Gravity Glue.
Okay.
Now he's really good at it. Like he's insanely good at it, and he spends like literally hours on one balance of like 5 or 6 rocks sticking out of a river, and they look impossible.
It's all, hey, Dick Lucas.
You should. I think you should try it. You're laughing way too much for this very serious subject.
Because it's like, Dick Lucas, what do you do in your free time? I balance rocks. I spend.
Not in all my free time, but when they're around, when you're on the beach or whatever by a river.
Yeah.
When you're having some deliberate free time, it's a good thing to do.
I love that.
You should try it. It's good for the soul.
I'm kind of traumatized by rocks. I had a guy that I had a date with, and he brought me a river rock as a gift, and it was the strangest thing I've ever.
Did he wrap it up?
No.
Bastard.
It was really odd. I was just like, why are you bringing me a rock? And he was just like, it was a smooth rock. And I was like, flowers would have been nice.
Right.
And so I saw your rocks, and it made me think of that, of like, what a strange thing.
Yeah.
What a strange thing. So lastly, I want to talk about...
I'm just looking around so I can balance.
What can you balance? No. I mean, the batteries are easy, so that's because they're squares, so that doesn't count. That wouldn't be a challenge.
Oh, yeah, I've got to make this point. Balance is not just putting one thing on top of another.
It has to be odd-shaped things that it's like a challenge to balance.
It's got to be
them.
A challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on before everybody else does.
Well, so let's talk about your latest album that came out in 2019, Crisis Point. Yeah.
2019, Pirates Press.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're great. And so this is your first time working with them, or?
No, they put out they re-released Internal Riot, which is the album previous to that.
I feel like that's their game. They kind of like come at artists. They say, "Let me re-release," and then they'll like scoop up your next album.
They did say they were available to re-release our stuff if we wanted to.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you must come with us now. We'll do you a deal. And there was no pushing. But
no, they're great.
They are good people, and they're efficient, friendly, and cooperative, and they work really well. We had a bad relation, and ended up being a bad relationship with Southern Distribution, who were doing the Blurg Records distribution for a very long time, from the 80s onwards. That all ground to a sordid halt, and our records are no longer being repressed. So they are now going to get repressed by Pirates Press, and they should all be back out again by early next year.
Hopefully,
finally.
Yeah, because there's been delays with all the vinyl pressings everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's what I've been hearing from all the bands I've spoken to lately. They're just like, the album's done, but we're waiting for the vinyls.
Yeah, everybody's pressing vinyl.
Yeah.
CDs have gone out the window. Nobody likes them anymore. A load of people just downloading things, but they're missing out on that essential physical three-dimensional thing of actually going out and buying a record in a shop or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is almost becoming an impossible thing to be able to do because the shops aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And they're going to do, Pirates Press are going to do a box set of the whole lot with a booklet in it based on diary entries that I wrote when we were in the studio recording the particular records. What else can I advertise? Ian Glasper is writing a book about the Subhumans.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've interviewed him. He's wonderful.
He's great.
Yeah.
And he's written several books previously, but this is his first book about a singular band, which is,
yeah,
we feel quite honoured.
Oh, that's amazing. That's incredible. So wait, how far along is he on that one?
Very close to finishing.
Ooh.
He's sent us all the years up to 86 so far, with the photographs included and the typeset all done up, just for like a final check. And there's a few more chapters to do that with, but
that's
it's
amazing.
Apparently a faster process getting a book out than it is getting a record out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess these days, like ever since COVID hit, there's just all the vinyls have been held up.
Right.
And it's just been like a thing where it's like every band I've spoken to, they're like, it's many, many months out for them to get their vinyls. And it's like, it's been a weird thing.
Yeah.
Well, so lastly, let's just talk about making that album. And, you know, being that one was a few years ago, do you have plans to re-release new music with
we
any
always
of your bands?
plan to.
You plan,
but
well,
plan,
are you working on it?
Yeah,
then,
plan
I guess
extends
would be.
into the distant future.
Yeah.
Whereas years ago, we would have like a practice once a week, or twice a week, and just invent songs, just spitting them out. That doesn't happen anymore. Trotsky, the drummer, lives in Germany. We all live in England, so there's that. To get to practice, we have to basically book some shows in Germany to pay for the airplane trip over there.
Yeah.
Then spend the week having practices at his place, and then doing a few more shows the next weekend because we like doing shows, and then come home, and then we've done that. But that can only happen like once or twice a year at the most.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't produce songs very quickly.
No.
Which is why there was a massive gap between Internal Riot and Crisis Point of about 12 years, which is insane, really. But you've got to create around the situation you're in. So we did that. It's a slow release thing. It's better than not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
And it is still something new coming out. So it's a slow slower process.
Have you ever thought, obviously with everything that we've kind of learned from the lockdown and being in the pandemic about a lot of people live streaming and doing things virtually, to not spread the disease, have you ever thought about doing it that way now that those are skill sets people kind of have?
We did do a gig at a place called Rockaway Park, south of Bristol, which is an extraordinary, unique place. It represents all the free, non-commercial thinking of the sort of crass anarcho ideas, and it involves a lot of travellers, ex-travellers, but without the special brew and the hard drugs. It's all the nice things about that society, that alternative counterculture society, in one space. You've got a vegan cafe and a performance space and printers and a barber and just all sorts of stuff going on. And they do shows there. So we'd locked down there. We organised it, so we played a gig there. It was Culture Shock and RDF and Atticot. Doesn't begin with P, begins with A. Atticot, a very good band who are unfortunately now split up. Boo. Reform. In front of about 10 people.
Yeah.
And with a static camera at the back and then a roving camera, and put those two together. Much editing later. And Michelle did all that basically on top form. And then stuck it out on what became Blurg TV, which was more or less the start of that. And we had several thousand people watching it.
Yeah.
And we had a donation page to help pay for the cost of the PA and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that kind of worked. And it was extraordinary, playing in front of next to nobody, but it's just like treat it like a gig.
Yeah.
And like face the camera when you like pretend you're talking to a crowd.
Yeah.
And that was great in terms of we couldn't do much else. We couldn't do shows anywhere else, but we could do that.
Sex, cigarettes, for Cortina, outside pets, bombs, war, famine, death, and a fake puppet.
So to wrap that up, the silent PA, like the silent concert, but then you don't have the energy of the crowd with that. I mean, that was the thing a lot of artists said when they were doing their live stream concerts in the pandemic, is just like they missed the audience. It is a certain feeling that you don't get, just from watching something.
Yeah, it was bizarre. But in the end, you just sort of play the songs and you just got to imagine a crowd in front of you. There are 10 people over there to like, yay, and a camera to look at now and again. And it's all a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
But it was close enough to the real thing because you're still playing the music and singing the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very quiet clapping moment at the end of each song.
I heard some artists say that it was like they would just have the crew clap in between songs to like just kind of a little pep, because it's
to
like
prove there's somebody there.
Yeah, because it's like for a lot of the artists, it's like you're used to performing live on stage and there's an audience and you finish the song and people cheer and they clap, and then when you live stream or when you record it, you finish the song and then it's just silence.
Yeah.
It's just like, thank you.
A bit odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the old days of really bad gigs. Or when there's like no one there.
Yeah. It's like back to our roots, playing to nobody.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to close with that, and I want to say thank you so much for taking
Erin.
the time today.
Nice. Hi, I'm Dick Lucas. You're watching Last Rockers TV.